What activities should you avoid while you're waiting for your Georgia Social Security disability hearing? I'm Jonathan Ginsberg, and I'm a Social Security disability attorney in Georgia, and I appear on behalf of clients in disability hearing offices throughout the state. And if I can be of assistance to you, please feel free to reach out to me. Love to talk to you. I want to talk to you today in this video about the activities you should avoid when you're waiting for your case to be heard. I realize that in the disability world, when you apply for benefits, it may be 18 to 24 months, maybe even longer, before you actually get to a hearing. And during that time, of course, you're going to be at home. You're sitting around. You're presumably not working. So what do judges expect? I don't think they expect that you're sitting in a chair looking at the wall all day long. I think you can do certain minimal type of activities. If that means riding along with somebody going to the grocery store or driving a couple of miles to the local grocery store, that's not inherently a problem. Doing a little bit of minor housework, putting food in the microwave, walking the dog periodically, that's not an issue. But I think if you get into activities more than that, it could be a problem. And I think I made a list of some of the things that typically that get the judge's attention that could be a problem. You know, landscaping or dealing with your yard, because that sort of sounds like you're in the lawn care business. So if you're pushing a lawnmower, that's physically demanding. If you're pulling weeds or working out in the garden for hours, that's a physical type of job. So I think that anything having to do with lawn care is going to raise a red flag for the judge. And again, you just want to be careful about doing anything if you're claiming that your problem is a physical problem, that doing something like that is physically quite taxing to do. I now cut the grass in my yard last weekend, and I was just completely drenched in sweat after doing it. I don't have a huge yard, but it's a physically demanding thing, and a judge will assume if you can do your yard, then you maybe have a capacity to do more stuff. Now, if you do landscaping and you find that after you do it in your yard, I couldn't call it landscaping, doing your yard, you're in bed for 2 or 3 days, then you want to tell the judge that. But again, the question would be, why are you doing it in the first place? So I would probably tell you to stay away from doing the lawn. Second thing is vacuuming. This has always been odd to me, why judges seem to think that vacuuming is the most physically demanding type of housework you can do. But I guess the idea of pushing a vacuum or carrying it upstairs or pulling is somehow more physically demanding than making the bed or doing the laundry. But for whatever reason, if you vacuum on a regular basis, I've seen that used in unfavorable decisions to deny somebody. So I would probably tell you to avoid vacuuming, or if you do it very, very occasionally, or be able to explain that you have help getting the vacuum up and down the stairs, or you don't bend down to go under beds, you just do the minimal amount, and maybe you'll vacuum for 7 or 8 minutes once a week. But again, if somebody says, I vacuum, in the judge's mind, it may be you're going throughout the house with a heavy canister vacuuming, you're getting on your hands and knees to get under bed, you're going on stairs. It's a very physically taxing type of thing, so you want to avoid that. Dealing with your kids. Now, this is, again, something that I've seen many, many times in hearings. If I have a client who's got young kids, anywhere from infant to 15 or 16, caring for kids is a lot of work, and the judge is going to be suspicious that you filed for disability so you can get paid while you stay home to take care of your kids. And it's just not realistic that a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old takes care of himself or herself. So if you have very young kids, the judge is expecting to hear that there's somebody else there to help you, your parent or a sibling or a friend, that you're not doing all that yourself. Also, taking care of kids involves making lunches, or picking up carpool on a timely basis, or helping with homework. All these things are kind of like in the daycare family. So if you are doing that type of stuff, the judges want to know, well, why couldn't you work in a daycare after school type of situation if you're taking care of your kids doing that much? And certainly if you're going to, basketball games or football games or baseball games, and you're climbing up in the stands and you're sitting in the stands and you're cheering, that stuff is problematic too. I remember I talked to a lady one time, it wasn't my client, but somebody I'd spoken to at the hearing office, and she said, well, I got denied because I was having a really good day and I went to my kid's wrestling match, and I was cheering for him, and I was standing up, and I was on the bleachers and so forth. And I told the judge about that, and the judge seemed to feel like, well, if I can stand up on bleachers and climb up on bleachers and scream for my kid, then that means I'm not disabled. And she was really put out by this because she goes, having a good day, and the next week I was in bed, but I did do it for that one day. So again, be aware that judges are listening for that type of activity that is really not consistent with being disabled. If you're taking classes, whether they're online or in person, that assumes a certain level of attention, concentration, and focus. So if you're taking a class, even if it's just you're monitoring a class to maybe develop a skill, medical transcription or photography or whatever it may be, then you want to make sure that you explain you're only taking one class, and then you take it and you've got no time limits on it, and you can see it over and over, and you can't focus, and you can only watch it for 10 minutes at a time, and you can't be on the keyboard for more than 5 or 10 minutes. You want to really explain to the judge what's really going on. If you simply say, I'm taking classes, in the judge's mind, you're sitting at a computer focusing and concentrating for 2 or 3 hours at a time. You take a break, and then you come back for another 2 or 3 hours. And going to school for 6 hours out of a day is what they call substantial gainful activity, and that is not consistent with being disabled. Cooking meals. Again, there's one thing if you're putting stuff in a microwave or you're warming up some soup, but if you're cooking meals for your family, that suggests that you are able to be almost like a cook in a restaurant. That is not consistent with being disabled. And I think also a good cook is going to know how to measure things and how to focus and concentrate and lift heavy pots and pans and fill things with water and put them on the stove. And all that stuff suggests you've got more capability than perhaps you're talking about. This is both for physical and mental. For physical, it's how much can you lift and how much can you carry and how much can you do it in a timely fashion, because if you're cooking, you can't leave something on the stove for indefinite periods of time. So cooking is something that is seen as sort of a job-like activity, so be aware of that. Same with volunteering. If you're volunteering at a museum or at your kid's school, that kind of looks like work. If you're a crossing guard, all that type of stuff looks like work. Even though you're not getting paid, it still suggests you're doing something that is kind of a work-like activity. So that's the sort of thing, that's the threshold in my mind is what you're doing, is there an equivalent type of job for it? Again, whether it's daycare, whether it's volunteer work, whether it's helping your kids after school or watching other kids after school, that all kind of smells like a job, as it were. So that's what you want to be careful about, because if a judge senses that you're doing something that is roughly equivalent to a job, but you're doing it and you're even getting paid or not getting paid, or you're getting paid cash, but you're doing it and simply you're applying for disability so you can get paid while you stay at home and take care of things you have to at home, that doesn't really bode very well for your disability case. So just be aware the judge is going to be concerned about the activities you're doing, why you're doing it, what your motivations are, and exactly what you're doing. So in preparation, you want to make sure that you can explain all those activities in great detail. And if you're doing them at a lesser level than what somebody would do at a paid job, you want to be able to explain that to the judge as well. I appreciate you taking the time to spend some time with me to learn about Social Security disability. If I can be of help to you, please reach out to me. Again, I'm Jonathan Ginsberg, 770-393-4985. Again, I take cases throughout the state of Georgia, or ginsberg@gmail.com, or fill out the form on this website. Happy to chat with you and wish you the best.